Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was the fall of 2017 when Ethan started working the night shift at a 24-hour Taco Bell just outside of Tempe, Arizona. He was a college student trying to make ends meet, and the graveyard shift paid slightly more than daytime. The location was right off a deserted stretch of highway, surrounded by a gas station, a pawn shop, and miles of desert nothingness. The crew was small, just Ethan, the manager Carl, and an older guy named Reggie, who kept mostly to himself and always wore mirrored sunglasses, even indoors. The first 2 nights went by uneventfully, the occasional drunk customer, a few coyotes roaming the lot, and a broken soda machine that hissed like it was boiling water. But on the 3rd night, things started to feel off. It began around 3:13 a.m. when a black 90s-style minivan pulled into the drive-thru. The engine idled for a full 5 minutes without anyone speaking into the speaker. Ethan repeated the greeting 3 times. "Welcome to Taco Bell. How can I help you?" Silence. Then, just as he was about to call it dead air, a voice crackled through the speaker, slow and dry like someone speaking through a throat full of sand. "Meat. No cheese. No shell. Just meat." Ethan, confused, asked if they meant ground beef. There was a pause. "Whatever's on the floor, in the back. Give me that." Thinking it was a prank, Ethan chuckled and looked at Carl, who was watching the security monitor. Carl's face had gone pale. Ethan turned to look and saw the van was still sitting there. The interior was pitch black, the headlights flickering erratically. But there was something else. A long, pale hand was slowly extending from the driver's side window, the fingers impossibly thin and too long. Carl leaned in and pressed the mute button on the intercom. "Don't serve them. Close the window. Don't talk to them." The van didn't move. After about 2 minutes, it rolled forward slowly, passing the window without anyone visible inside. Reggie, who hadn't spoken all night, suddenly muttered, "Don't look at the back windows. Just don't." They watched as the van circled around the building again, and again, for nearly 30 minutes. Around 4 a.m., the store's power flickered, and the backlight to the fry station went out completely. That's when the smell started. Not food, but rot. Like wet carpet, old meat, and something else Ethan couldn't place, something sickly sweet. Carl grabbed his keys. "Lock the doors, now. Both entrances." The second Ethan turned the key in the front door, the motion sensor above it triggered. No one was there, but the chime dinged as if someone had walked in. Then, the kitchen's heat lamp began to flash rapidly. The fryer buzzed as if something was dropped in, but no one had gone near it. When Carl approached the fry station to investigate, he screamed, loud and sharp. Ethan ran over and saw a single human tooth, molar and all, floating in the bubbling oil. No one said a word for what felt like hours. Reggie finally broke the silence. "I've seen that van before, in '09. Same time, same place. Everyone working that night quit the next day. One of them disappeared, still missing." Ethan thought he was kidding until Carl pulled out his phone and showed him a news article. October 2009. Local teen vanishes during night shift at Taco Bell. No security footage was ever recovered. The cameras had gone out, just like they were now. As the sky began to lighten, the van drove off slowly, headlights still flickering. They never saw the driver's face. Ethan quit the next morning. Carl stayed for 2 more weeks but refused to work nights. Reggie? No one saw him again after that shift. The strangest part? When corporate came in to review the security footage, every file from 3 a.m. to 4:45 a.m. was corrupted. Static, warped timestamps, and a high-pitched humming sound that made the text nosebleed when he tried to restore it. Years later, Ethan still dreams of that voice in the headset. Dry, raspy, and inhuman. He hears it every October, always at 3:13 a.m. Just meat.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 2.
It was the summer of 2018, in a small town just outside of Bakersfield, California. Kyle, a 19-year-old college dropout, had just started the night shift at the local Taco Bell. The place didn't see much traffic after midnight, which suited Kyle fine. He liked the quiet, and the hours kept him away from his overbearing stepdad. The only other person working that shift was Maria, a soft-spoken woman in her late 30s who mostly stayed in the back doing prep work. The Taco Bell itself had a weird history. Employees whispered about strange noises in the freezer, lights flickering for no reason, and even customers who would come in, order food, and then vanish before it was ready. Most people just chalked it up to late-night hallucinations or small-town paranoia. But that summer, something happened that none of them could explain or forget. It started with the cameras. Kyle was doing his usual end-of-night sweep, checking the lobby and wiping down the tables when he caught something on the security monitor in the office. One of the outside cameras, the one pointed at the dumpster, flickered and showed a tall figure standing completely still. It was lanky, almost emaciated, wearing what looked like a grease-stained hoodie and jeans that hung off its hips like they were about to fall. Kyle leaned in closer, squinting at the grainy feed. The figure's face was turned toward the camera, but no features were visible, just a pale blur where eyes and a mouth should have been. He ran to the back door to see if someone was messing around, but when he opened it, the alley was empty. He scanned the lot, checked behind the dumpster. Nothing. He went back inside, and when he looked again at the monitor, the figure was still there, same exact position, frozen on the screen. But now, the timestamp showed a feed from 3 minutes ago. The live feed was working again. The figure had never been there in real time. It was just inserted into the footage. Kyle tried to brush it off. Faulty equipment, maybe an old glitch. He didn't want to bring it up to Maria. She already looked like she didn't sleep much, and this place gave her enough stress. The next night, Kyle came in to find Maria crying in the office. She didn't speak much English, but through broken words and trembling hands, she told him that the same figure had shown up again, this time in the walk-in freezer. Not in person, but on the camera feed. She said she heard tapping from inside while she was prepping the beans. When she opened the freezer door, nothing was there. But when she checked the footage later, the figure was standing behind her as she entered. Kyle's stomach turned. They both agreed to keep the door to the freezer locked for the rest of the night. But that didn't help. Around 3:40 a.m., the drive-through bell rang. Kyle went to the headset and said his usual line, but no one responded. He asked again. Still silence. The monitor showed a dark sedan idling in front of the speaker box. The windows were too tinted to see inside, and the car's lights were off. Maria stood behind him, whispering that something felt wrong. Kyle agreed. He hesitated, then walked to the window to peek outside. The car was still there, engine humming quietly, but there was no one in the driver's seat. Just a plastic Taco Bell bag sitting upright in the passenger seat, moving slightly as if someone were breathing beneath it. He backed away and locked the window. Then the power went out. The emergency lights kicked in, dim and flickering. Kyle grabbed his phone to use the flashlight, but it was dead. He swore it had been at 80% 10 minutes ago. Maria screamed from the prep area. He ran back and found her staring at the freezer door. On the metal surface, smeared in what looked like black grease or blood, were 4 words, "Let me back in." Kyle tried calling 911 from the store phone, but the line was dead. He turned back toward the front and froze. The lobby lights, which were supposed to be out, were glowing a sickly yellow. In the reflection of the lobby windows, he saw the figure, tall, pale, hunched, standing directly behind the counter. No footsteps, no sound, just standing there, facing him, watching. He grabbed Maria by the arm and they ran out the back exit into the parking lot, not stopping until they were across the street at a 24-hour gas station. The clerk called the cops. When police arrived, they found nothing out of the ordinary. No sign of forced entry, no weird writing on the freezer. The surveillance footage had been wiped clean from midnight onward. Only static remained. Maria quit the next day. Kyle tried to stick it out for one more shift, but the minute he stepped into that Taco Bell again, he found the same plastic bag from the drive-through sedan sitting on the counter. Inside was a single taco, completely blackened, molded, rotted, and covered in hair. He walked out and never came back. That Taco Bell closed 6 months later. The official reason was plumbing issues, but everyone in town knew better. To this day, no business has lasted more than a few weeks in that building. Employees keep quitting. Cameras keep glitching. And late at night, locals say if you drive past slow enough and look into the windows, you might just see someone standing inside, watching.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 3.
There was a Taco Bell on the edge of a small town that had an unsettling reputation among the locals, though most dismissed it as rumors, until one night changed everything. A young woman named Mia took a late-night shift there, mostly because it paid well and was close to her apartment. The place was almost always empty after 11 p.m., but the flickering neon sign outside and the occasional hum of the deep fryer were constant companions. What unsettled Mia the most was the strange feeling she got every time she stepped into the back kitchen. The air seemed thicker there, like a damp chill you could almost taste. One night, as the clock neared midnight, Mia was cleaning the prep area when she heard a soft scratching sound coming from the walk-in freezer. She dismissed it at first, probably just a rat or something, but the noise grew louder, persistent. She grabbed a flashlight and cautiously opened the freezer door. Inside, the cold air hit her face, but what made her heart pound wasn't the chill. It was the sight of a pair of eyes reflecting the flashlight beam from the darkest corner. She stepped back, then slowly leaned in closer, the beam revealing a figure curled up on the floor, barely breathing. It was a young man, gaunt and filthy, whispering incoherent words. Before she could react, he reached up suddenly and grabbed her wrist with an unnatural grip, his nails digging in painfully. Mia yanked her arm free and slammed the freezer door shut. She called 911, and the police arrived quickly, but when they pried the door open again, the man was gone, vanished like a ghost. They found scratch marks deep into the freezer walls and strange symbols scrawled on the floor in what looked like blood. The manager insisted they close the store immediately, but no explanation was ever given, and the place shut down for weeks. Mia never returned, haunted by nightmares of the hollow eyes and that desperate whisper, "Help me." A few months later, the Taco Bell reopened under new management, but employees whispered about a dark presence lurking in the back. One late shift, a new worker found an old, tattered Taco Bell uniform folded beneath the freezer racks, blood-stained and soaked in an icy cold that seemed to seep into his bones. People who worked there after claimed to hear footsteps behind them when no one was around, cold breaths on their necks, and the faint, desperate scratching of fingernails on freezer walls at night. The Taco Bell became a place no one wanted to stay late in, especially after midnight. The strangest part? Local police records later revealed a man had been missing in the area for over a year, last seen near that very Taco Bell. No one ever found him until the night Mia found those eyes in the freezer. The implication was chilling. Something trapped him in that cold, dark space, refusing to let him go. And to this day, if you wander near that Taco Bell after dark, some say you can hear a soft whisper through the vents, begging for help. But no one ever answers.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 4.
It was a late Friday night at a Taco Bell on the outskirts of a quiet town. The parking lot was nearly empty, and inside, only a handful of customers lingered. Among the employees was Jenna, working the graveyard shift. She had heard the usual creepy rumors about the place, strange noises, flickering lights, unexplained cold spots, but nothing she'd taken seriously. Just the kind of ghost stories employees tell to pass the time. Around midnight, a man walked in. He looked out of place, disheveled, pale, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept for days. He ordered a simple meal, no smile, barely speaking. Jenna felt a chill when she handed him his food. Something about him was off, like he was watching more than just the menu. As he sat near the window, Jenna noticed him staring intently at the empty parking lot. Suddenly, the flickering overhead lights went out. The whole restaurant plunged into darkness for a moment. The emergency lights kicked on, casting long shadows. Customers whispered nervously. Jenna's heart pounded. She tried to calm everyone, but the man by the window stood up abruptly and walked toward the back door, which was supposed to be locked during business hours. She called out to him, but he disappeared into the kitchen area before she could reach him. Confused and uneasy, Jenna followed. Inside the kitchen, everything looked normal until she spotted the back door ajar, swinging slightly with a cold breeze rolling in. The parking lot was empty, but something was wrong. Her walkie-talkie crackled to life, a faint, garbled voice whispering unintelligible words. Suddenly, Jenna's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. The message read, "You shouldn't have followed." She spun around, heart racing. The man was gone. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Then, one of the freezers slammed shut violently by itself, making her jump. Jenna bolted to the front counter, flipping the lights back on. The customers were gone, the chairs pushed in as if no one had been there for hours. Her co-workers were nowhere to be found. The manager arrived shortly after, called in by the alarm. They searched the building and parking lot. No sign of the strange man, no trace of customers or staff who had been there just moments before. The next day, police found no evidence that anyone else had been in the restaurant after closing. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses showed the Taco Bell glowing in eerie silence, the parking lot completely empty at midnight. Days later, Jenna quit. She never told anyone about the text message or the voice on the walkie-talkie. She just knew that something inside that Taco Bell wasn't right. Something that didn't want to be seen and definitely didn't want to let her leave.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 5.
One summer night, a young woman named Jenna took a late shift job at a Taco Bell on the outskirts of a small town. The restaurant was old, tucked beside a dimly lit highway, with flickering neon signs that buzzed erratically, casting an eerie glow on the cracked parking lot. Jenna was excited but nervous. This was her first night alone after training. The night started quietly, with only a few drifters and truckers stopping by. Jenna worked behind the counter, preparing orders and cleaning when suddenly the lights dimmed, flickering rapidly before stabilizing again. It felt like a glitch, but a chill crawled up her spine. The restaurant felt colder, and an unsettling silence fell over the place, as if the hum of the fridge and fryer had suddenly stopped. A man walked in, tall, thin, wearing an old leather jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. His eyes were shadowed, but Jenna felt his gaze burn through her like ice. He ordered a simple taco, no modifications, then sat alone in the corner booth, his movements stiff and jerky, like a marionette. Jenna tried to ignore him, but she caught glimpses of his face in the reflection of the soda fountain, twisted and contorted, with a faint, unnatural grin. As the night deepened, Jenna began hearing whispers, faint at first but growing louder, swirling around the vents and beneath the hum of the machines. She could never make out the words, but they sounded like desperate cries, voices pleading for help. The fryer splattered oddly, and she thought she saw shadows darting behind the windows, only to vanish when she looked directly. The man in the corner vanished suddenly. One moment he was there, the next he wasn't. Jenna found his empty booth covered in something sticky and dark, like dried blood. Her heart pounded. She called out but heard no response except the echoes of the whispers now loud enough to make her dizzy. Suddenly, the soda machine burst, spraying foul-smelling liquid everywhere. The lights went out completely, plunging the restaurant into darkness. Jenna fumbled for her phone, but the screen cracked in her trembling hands, plunging her into deeper panic. Then, the whispers became screams. From the kitchen, a cold breath brushed her neck, and a skeletal hand seemed to graze her shoulder. She ran for the exit, but the door wouldn't budge. Trapped, she felt unseen eyes watching her every move. In the pitch black, Jenna heard the voice clear, low and guttural. "You don't belong here." The man's face flashed in her mind, but twisted into something monstrous, skin peeling, eyes hollow. Her flashlight flickered on and illuminated the dining room. The other booths were filled with shadowy figures, their mouths moving in silent screams, eyes begging for release. Finally, with a sudden jolt, the front door slammed open and Jenna stumbled into the night air. She never looked back. The Taco Bell closed permanently the next day, but locals say if you drive by after midnight, you can hear muffled whispers and see flickering lights through the boarded-up windows. Some say the man was a spirit trapped by something evil that had taken over the place. Others believe the restaurant was built on cursed land, and every late-night worker disappears, swallowed by the shadows. Jenna never returned, but sometimes, when the night is quiet, she hears the soft call of a Taco Bell bell ringing in her dreams, and a voice whispering, "Come back."
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 6.
Late one night, around 2 a.m., a young woman named Sarah pulled into a Taco Bell on the edge of a quiet town. She'd been driving for hours, exhausted and craving something familiar and cheap. The place looked empty except for one employee behind the counter, a pale, nervous-looking young man who barely met her eyes. Sarah ordered a simple burrito and some fries, then sat down in the dimly lit dining area. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows across the cracked linoleum floor. As she waited, she noticed the employee kept glancing toward the back door, his fingers twitching like he was expecting something, or someone. When her food finally arrived, the burrito felt oddly cold, like it had been sitting out for hours. She shrugged it off, too tired to care, and took a bite. The taste was off, metallic, almost like the meat was spoiled. She swallowed quickly, trying not to think about it. Suddenly the lights flickered, plunging the restaurant into a brief darkness before buzzing back on. Sarah's heart pounded. That's when she noticed the employee was gone. She called out, but there was no answer. The front door was locked tight, and the windows showed no sign of life outside. The silence pressed in on her like a weight. Then, from the kitchen in the back, came a faint scratching noise, like nails dragging across metal. Curious and terrified, Sarah crept toward the kitchen door. The scratching grew louder, more frantic, as if something was trying to escape. She pushed the door open and saw something that made her blood run cold. A hidden trapdoor, slightly ajar, with deep claw marks gouged into the wood around it. Peering down into the darkness below, she caught a glimpse of pale, sickly hands clawing at the edges, desperately trying to reach the light. The faint smell of rot and decay seeped up from the depths. Without thinking, she slammed the trapdoor shut and ran toward the front door, pounding it until it finally unlocked. Outside, the night air felt sharp and alive. As she drove away, her stomach twisted with nausea. She glanced back once. The Taco Bell stood silent, the flickering neon sign buzzing ominously. Later, she discovered the location had been shut down years before, after employees mysteriously vanished and rumors of strange experiments circulated. No one knew what had been locked in that trapdoor, but Sarah never forgot the sound of those desperate scratches that night. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, people say you can still hear them scratching beneath the old Taco Bell, waiting to be free.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 7.
There's something about fast food places, especially ones like Taco Bell, that makes late-night workers vulnerable. The fluorescent lights hum, the scent of seasoned beef lingers in the air, and the parking lot feels both too empty and too full of shadows at the same time. One night, a young employee named Jessie found out exactly how wrong it could get. Jessie had just started her new night shift job at a Taco Bell on the edge of town. The place was quiet most nights, and the few customers who came by were the usual late-night wanderers or people desperate for a quick bite. The night started off slow, with Jessie flipping tacos and cleaning tables. But as the clock struck midnight, things began to change. The first unsettling moment was when the drive-through speaker crackled with static instead of a customer's voice. Jessie went to check the window. No car. She shrugged it off as a technical glitch. Minutes later, the lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. But the temperature in the restaurant dropped suddenly, like someone opened a freezer door in the middle of summer. Then, the security cameras in the back showed a figure standing just outside the door. The feed was grainy, but Jessie could tell it was a man wearing a dark hoodie, standing motionless, staring right at the camera. When she looked outside, the parking lot was empty. She called the manager, but the phone line was dead. Suddenly, the restaurant speakers played a low, distorted voice that wasn't part of any Taco Bell ad or playlist. It whispered things Jessie couldn't make out but sounded like a warning. Her heart pounding, she tried to lock the doors, but the locks wouldn't budge. It was as if some unseen force was holding them open. In a panic, Jessie grabbed the emergency phone by the register, but it only emitted a chilling silence. The shadows inside the restaurant began to stretch and twist unnaturally. The lights flickered again, and then the kitchen door slammed shut on its own, trapping Jessie in the dining area. She started screaming, banging on the glass windows, hoping a passerby would see her, but no one came. The figure outside moved closer, but when Jessie looked through the window, it vanished. The voice came again, louder this time, a garbled sentence that froze her blood. "You're not supposed to be here." At 3 a.m., the power cut out completely, plunging the entire Taco Bell into darkness. Jessie's breathing echoed loudly as she fumbled for her phone, only to find it dead. Then footsteps, soft, deliberate footsteps, came from the kitchen. Suddenly, the power snapped back on. The kitchen door was wide open, and the restaurant was empty, except for a single taco neatly placed on the counter. Jessie never saw anyone leave, and the security camera showed no sign of the intruder. The next morning, when the morning crew arrived, Jessie was gone without a trace. The police found no evidence of foul play, but the surveillance footage from that night was corrupted. Only static and the distorted voice remained. Since then, several employees who worked the night shift at that Taco Bell have quit without explanation, whispering about shadows that watch from the parking lot, voices that call their names, and an unshakable feeling that something is waiting just beyond the lighted windows. No one dares stay after midnight anymore. And if you ever hear a garbled voice through a drive-through speaker telling you you're not supposed to be there, maybe you shouldn't be.